Hi there, my name is Renee Hobbs. Welcome to COM 416. I'm so sorry that today we're not going to be having our live class. I'm here in the airport in Austin, Texas, headed down to a big event in Brazil. And the timing of the air flights and all just doesn't work out for our class this afternoon. So I thought I would leave you a video message and kind of make the announcements that I normally make. We'll do it, we'll do it this way. So let me share my screen with you. I am thrilled to see the progress that you are making as the Leap 2s come flooding in. This week, our topic is the blurring of art, journalism, and activism. And I think you did a very, very good job this week in getting your Leap 2 screencasts done. But I also see, nice evidence of your thoughtfulness as you're engaged in the readings and as you're tweeting your understanding, using the discipline of the concision that Twitter requires to do synthesis of ideas. So let's just start a little bit here. Tonight, your Leap 2 is due by midnight, so make sure that you post your work to your blog and tweet a link to your work with the hashtag EDC534. It is worth thinking about what skills and competencies get strengthened and activated by doing a screencast like this. And I hope that you had a learning experience that would include aspects of oral performance, technical skills of managing the screencast process itself, of course, the rich research that you did to select a artifact of propaganda and to gather information about it. And then, of course, those critical questions using reasoning and evidence to make inferences and to support your ideas with evidence. So I'm looking forward to reading those Leap 2s over the spring break. Now, okay, so let me resume the sharing again. So you also did some discussion about Kony 2012. And one thing that I did was I took the comments that I received up until now to reflect a little bit on some of the themes that you developed. It's really clear that you recognize the way in which featuring Jacob, the young African boy, was a way to activate strong emotions. It's very clear that you were able to recognize the powerful way in which our feelings are connected, including, of course, the filmmaker's own use of his newborn son and the emotional connection to his family. So the dramatic, Keith made a great observation about the dramatic change that we see in the child and the powerful way in which the participation in the movement really diminished his humanity, right? So Keith, that was a really nice insight. Matthew, you pointed out how this form of propaganda creates an enemy, right? So singling out Kony and making him the villain basically is an effective tool of propaganda. Caitlin, you talked a lot about the strong emotions that are created in this film in terms of the joy and the pleasure. So in a way, one of the reasons why this propaganda went viral is that it did create very, very strong feelings. And I liked your point about simplifying the call to action. I think that's a critical idea, as we know propaganda simplifies information and ideas. Julia, you also talked about the strong emotions, and you quoted some of the powerful way in which we saw Jacob be a spokesperson. So if we like Jacob, we want to help him. Jacob is the one who creates the solution for the issue. Peyton, you also recognized emotion. And of course, I'm really appreciative of your look at the documentary evidence that the filmmaker uses to compel our sense of the scale of the tragedy. Monica, you definitely appreciated the way in which the Kony phenomenon was turned into a movement by some of the collateral products, right? The kit and the signs and the stickers. That was a terrific observation there. Jana, I really appreciate your observations about your then and now comparison to watching it when you were younger and watching it now. I also appreciate your evidence of sharing and reading with the other members of the team. And that made me really pleased. And one of the reasons why we think it went viral is that many of us weren't really sure. Was this a journalism? Was it a filmmaker's art? Or was it a form of social activism? And it was probably all three of those genres blended together in a skillful way. So let me see if I can get my computer to work here now. Meredith, yeah, the simplified perspective of the child. That's a beautiful phrase for the way in which the use of the child is a mechanism to, it justifies the simplifying of the information. And I like how you explained the steps in the process, which is, again, a list is a brilliant form of propaganda. The to-do list that Jason Russell provides makes us feel empowered, like we can do something. Dominique, you talked a little bit about the way in which the video asks for our help in a very direct way, right? And we are addressed in the you voice. You can help. You can make a difference. Nick, you talked a lot about the drama of Jacob's experience in seeing his own brother get killed, and what a terrifying and tragic experience that is. And you talked a little bit about the emotion of anger and how this film does activate some of our anger. And Kelsey, you also mentioned this idea that, one day we had never heard of Uganda and the next day everyone seemed to know something. So you talk a little bit about the way in which this propaganda got spread really widely, right? And you described some of the ways in which, this sense of how do we, our impulse to want to care for others is what is activated here to motivate and inspire our action. Madison, you talk a little bit about the way in which we can be part of changing history. And that's, of course, very flattering to the audience, isn't it? So that can really inspire us to want to be part of something larger than ourselves. And Samantha, you recognize it as beneficial propaganda, and you recognize that it's advocacy for a movement. And I love the phrase that you talk about how the video appeals to our values and our care for others. So propaganda can actually inspire us to be, better human beings. And certainly that was the attempt here. Michaela, you talk a lot about the small steps, the idea of things, the form of support, the slacktivism or activism is stuff that small ways to show that you are a member of a inside group. And in a way, that the bracelet and the stickers and the sense of belonging was another way to cultivate insider-outsider framing, which propaganda likes to do, right? Are you inside one of the, are you part of the invisible children? Are you part of the movement? Are you an insider? So in general, and I think there are others that came in a little bit later. I'm looking forward to reading those. In general, I feel like most of you were very effective in recognizing the skillful use of propaganda in Kony 2012. When it came time for you to synthesize the other information, you guys did seem to have a field day with the Chomsky video and the short reading. Many of you liked the social media being weaponized. And I really appreciated those of you who are making connections between these new ideas and what we encountered with Ryan Holiday. So that was especially pleasing to me. And what I decided to do, since we are really talking about the quality of your tweets now, is I shared my favorite propaganda quotes from this week, and I created a moment. A moment is a curated collection of tweets. And so here's the tweets that I identified earlier today as tweets that I thought were really strong. A comment on the journalism's encouraging of complicity by relying on media elites. Michaela and your comments on the Helen Jaffe article about the emotional tone and visual content of visuals really being a key to opening up our emotive pathways. Olivia, your great point about the humiliation that Jason Russell suffered when something he was doing as a true believer because he really wanted to help and he was being a good guy got twisted and turned against him, and he was humiliated and suffered a lot of bullying, I think, in the social media sphere, and that rapid shift from, great achievement to great defeat, it led to a mental breakdown. And your observation is that snarking was a factor there. As more about snark, I think that's really great. Meredith, your great use of a quote from Helen Jaffe. Kelsey, a really nice connection between the conspiracy theories we learned about playing the Get Bad News game and the Chomsky reading. And Samantha, I think you use a quote really well defining snark and understanding the pain that it causes. And I really appreciate, Samantha, you're using the Ryan Holiday quote. He says, you can choose whether you feel harmed or not by the slings and arrows of social media. And he quotes Marcus Aurelius, who's a Greek rhetorician from the ancient classical world. So loved that. Very skillful, very, very well done tweet. Jana loved this tweet about sowing confusion, and we've been learning a lot about that with learning about disinformation, the idea that a disbelieving, fragile, unconscious audience is much easier to manipulate. And Jana, you're also summarizing a little bit of my article around that when we have incomplete information, we need to fill in the gaps, and we do that using our social media filters. Nick, a really nice summary of the 5 filters of propaganda, according to Noam Chomsky. And Madison, a terrific synthesis of the concept of salience, and the idea that when we're attracted to something, it's salient, and then we're more likely to remember that, and we're more likely to use that in making judgments. So I was really pleased with the good work coming out of your thinking in Twitter, and I'm hoping that you're going to do that again when we get back from spring break. But we're going for spring break now, but I'd like to preview what you can expect and what you should be thinking about as you come back from spring break, or perhaps if you're like me, you're going to use the spring break week to catch up and get ahead even, and I hope that's in the cards for you as well. So let's take a look at what's happening, what I'd like you to do for week 8. Week 8 is one of my favorite topics of the whole semester. It's propaganda for votes and power. we're going to take a step back from the contemporary period to look historically at the Nazi regime and the Nazi use of propaganda. Of course, there's many ways to look historically at propaganda, but because the Third Reich was such a defining aspect of the 20th century, and because propaganda played such a pivotal role in the systematic murder of 6 million Jews in Europe, it's a really important topic to discuss. So you can see week 8, we'll learn how politicians use propaganda to get elected and how some of the strategies used by the Nazis persist as essential components of political campaign processes today. So the first phase of our historical inquiry is going to be how Hitler behaved as a politician. Here's the sequence of activities. I'd like you to read one of the Leap 2 assignments from someone in this class and give them some feedback with a tweet, being sure to use the COM416 hashtag. I'd like you to read this article. I wrote this with one of my URI students, Sandy McGee, who was a communication studies student a few years ago, really talented young woman. We looked back at a time period in history when people first began teaching about propaganda, way back in the 1930s, when Hitler was rising in political influence and power. So as you read this article, please pay a special attention to the 7 propaganda devices and the ABCs of propaganda, and compose a tweet that explains one of these ideas in relation to contemporary media and society. So make that connection between past and present. I think you're going to enjoy that article, and it'll definitely give you a historical understanding of how teaching about propaganda has developed over the last 70 years or so. Then our big project, worth 15 points, I'd like you to read the first 60 pages of The State of Deception, The Power of Nazi Propaganda. Here I am in the airport. I wish I could be holding up the big book to read, but of course I didn't bring it with me. I think you're going to really like this book. It's beautifully illustrated, and make sure you're looking at those illustrations and studying those illustrations, right? The illustrations are as vital to understanding the ideas as the text itself. So read the first 60 pages, and then what I'd like you to do is explain something interesting that you learned from reading. And be sure to include both a careful description of what you learned, as well as your reaction to it, right? And then I'd like you to insert an image that illustrates or extends the meaning of your post. You're going to be doing that right here in the discussion section on Pathright, right? You're going to be explaining and analyzing, and then you're going to be adding an image that helps explain those ideas that were interesting to you. Be sure not to duplicate, right? That just drives me crazy. So there's so many interesting ideas. Don't just simply repeat the idea of another student. So make sure you read before you post. Okay, so really interesting article, very short but powerful, in Slate from a couple years ago, before even we got involved in all this Russian propaganda. It's an essay called How Politicians Should and Shouldn't Use Twitter Bots. Of course, I'm here at South by Southwest talking about bots and the role of bots in our society and in education. And what I'd like you to do is read the article and then follow at least one hyperlink that's embedded in the article to learn more about some topic. So you'll read the article and then you'll go one step more to read something else that the author links to that article. Then share what you learned on our class Flipgrid. And then finally, watch someone else's student video and offer warm feedback on what you learned. You guys remember how to use the Flipgrid, I think. When it comes up, you hit the big red button. You press the play button and you wait for the recording to start. Hi, I'm Renee Hobbs, and I'm looking forward to seeing what you think about this essay, How Politicians Should and Shouldn't Use Twitter Bots. enjoy. Okay, and then make sure you test your sound. Put a photo. If you want to put a sticker, you can, and then put your name, right? And of course, if you would like to get credit for it, you should put your whole name. Just saying. All right. So I think you're going to enjoy. Making a flip grid. Let me go take you back to propaganda. So you're doing some historical reading, and we're trying to make some connections between politics and getting elected and propaganda. So this is a great topic, of course. And let's see, there's one more thing. Let's see if I can take you to it here, just briefly. Oh yeah, one of the things I'm hoping that you're going to do is you're going to start getting ready for thinking about your Leap 3. And I think I have an activity here that helps you do that, right? Yes, so I would like you to review Leap 3. I've changed the due date for Leap 3 to push that back a week. I'll make a note of that here. But let's just go to the assignment and learn a little bit more about it. So here it is on the main project website. It's a compare and contrast project, and it involves collaboration. That's so wonderful. Now, because of the power of digital media, it's easy for people to collaborate with others all over the world. You are going to find a partner in this class, and you're going to work collaboratively to create a really cool project. It's due Wednesday, April 11th. That's a little bit different than noted in the syllabus, so just telling you. Working with a partner, you compare and contrast two specific examples of propaganda from the present and the past. You create both an academic essay and an infographic, both of which are embedded in your blog, on your blog as a blog post. The purpose of this project is to give you an opportunity to demonstrate the knowledge and critical thinking skills that you're developing in this course by comparing and contrasting the present to the past. So the first step involved in this project is finding a collaborative partner. There's lots of creative people in this class. We already have seen that, haven't we? So I'm going to make a link. I haven't linked that quite yet, but I'm going to create a link right here to a Google Doc for you to get the emails and sign up when you find your partner. So you're going to have to find a way to work together as a creative team. And if you'd like, you can listen to this really great radio segment on the power of two in terms of creative collaboration. So you and your partner need to figure out how to collaborate. I'm not going to tell you how to do that. Do it however you want. If you'd like, you can use our Slack channel, which is a really great tool for collaboration. It's like a chat place that allows you to store all your documents, and it's a really fun tool for collaboration. If you're looking to build your resume, having experience in Slack will definitely be appealing if you're heading into any project or job that involves project management or event planning or anything like that. So feel free to use our Slack if you want. You're going to be selecting two artifacts, one from the present and one from the past, and you're going to be comparing and contrasting. So please review the process of composing a comparison contrast. In general, that composing process involves describing and analyzing the first piece, describing and analyzing the second piece, and then using that Venn diagram to identify the similarities and the differences. So you have to have all those elements of a comparison contrast in place in your academic paper. Now, as you start thinking about which examples should you suggest, you and your partner are going to have to find examples. And you've got lots of choices, of course, but I have made a hyperlink to some great historical places to search for historic propaganda. There's some amazing stuff on the interwebs. And there's two archives in particular that are free and available to you that should be a lot of fun for you to explore. And then, of course, you're going to write an academic essay, 8 to 12 pages. You're going to gather information. You're going to create a works cited list. You're going to format that and work in APA format. And you're going to be trying in your analysis to make some connections about what you're learning about propaganda in this class in relation to what you're exploring when you compare and contrast. So I'm expecting that you're going to use Google Docs so that I can comment on your paper. It should be 8 to 12 pages. It should use all the codes and conventions of an academic paper, including a title page, an abstract, and a works cited page. You're going to submit this paper as a link to Google Doc with open editing, and I'll edit and comment in the marges using the track changes function. Then finally, the funnest part of this assignment is you get to make an infographic. So you can explore PictoChart and create a free account. There's some tutorials if you want help to polish your work. And of course, if you want to learn more about what makes a good infographic, there's a link there from my latest book, Creating Infographics and Data Visualizations, that will really give you a sense of what elements of a infographic are really important as effective forms of communication. So in your final project, you'll have your link to your academic essay and then your infographic posted on your blog. Even though you're working as a team, each student will post the work to your own blog post. So if Meredith and Jana are working together, I'll find your work as a team. I'll find it on Meredith's blog and I'll find it on Jana's blog, right? And then finally, don't forget this step. At the end of it, when it's all over on April 11th, take 10 minutes and write me an email and describe to me, like, what was the quality of that collaboration? You know, what did you contribute? What did your partner contribute? How was your creativity unleashed through collaboration? And what challenges did you encounter? Because that's part of the learning experience. Well, I'll let you read the criteria for evaluation, and I'll talk more about that on March 21st. And of course, I have given you some inspiring project examples. Tori Vecchio and Amanda Schofield analyzed 2 campaigns from the National Football League. Matt Berard and Miriam Melodosian, they compared and contrasted the 1952 political campaign of Dwight Eisenhower to the Bernie Sanders campaign of 2016. Shannon Duffy and Hassan Martin looked at 2 music videos, Formation and Fight the Power, thinking about protest music. And Nikita Duke and Dina Saleh, they looked at representations of beauty, past and present. So I think that in a way, this next phase of the project is going to give you a lot of depth as you develop your expertise in propaganda. All right, that's all. I think you got a sense of what's going on. If you got all the way to the end of this video, then you know that I always leave you with a question, and you can put your answer in the reply function at the bottom there. So what's your plans for spring break? That's what I want to know. I'll tell you about my plans. You tell me about your plans. And I'll see you back in class after spring break on March 21st. All right, thanks a lot. Bye-bye.